Are there players on your fantasy team that just aren't meeting your expectations? Trying to figure out what you should do with them? Well, don't panic yet. Let's talk about them and figure out what you should do. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Endgame community. I'm Chris, and it's time for another Panic Players. All right, let's start with an obvious one, and that is Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. What is going on in Kansas City? They have a worse offense than the Jets. They have no fantasy relevant players. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Darrell Williams, Edwards-Helaire, if he ever comes back, just drop them all. They are all worthless in fantasy. Panic level? I'm just kidding. Don't panic on Patrick Mahomes. I'm not even going to discuss this. Just move on. All right, let's get to a real panic player, and that is Joe Mixon. Now I get it. You're like, hey, he had like 13 fantasy points. He scored a touchdown. But if not for that, semi-long touchdown run, he really did nothing. He only had 12 carries in week 7, and the worst part, the part that you should be panicking about, is that he's losing third down snaps to Samaje Perine. And this was the case all season long until week 6 when Perine was out with COVID and Mixon went out there and caught a bunch of passes and dominated Detroit, and everybody thought they had a 3-down back again. You don't have a 3-down back. You have a first and second down back, and that is it. Who doesn't catch passes? Who's very touchdown dependent? You should absolutely be panicking on Joe Mixon. And if you have Joe Mixon, you should be selling him high while you can. All right, moving along to DJ Moore. Again, another guy who had a decent fantasy day today. 6 catches, 73 yards. You say that's not bad, but look at the last 3 games. Hasn't been what he was early in the season. What's changed? Sam Darnold has changed. That's what's changed. The Sam Darnold we expected, the Sam Darnold from the Jets, has been the Sam Darnold we've gotten the last few weeks. And if this keeps up, which it looks like it will, that's going to be bad news for DJ Moore and for his fantasy value. Now, DJ Moore's still a fine receiver, still a solid wide receiver too. You don't have to go out, be completely panicking on him. But as I always say, if you can move him for something good, you should absolutely do it. Hey guys, before we continue on with more panic players, if you're enjoying the video, I just ask you really quickly, take a second, give it a thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it. All right, let's move on to a guy who seems to be on this video, unfortunately, every single week, and that is Antonio Gibson, another dud of a fantasy game. We know he's dealing with this shin injury, whether it's just shin splints or some kind of fracture, whatever it might be, it's certainly bothering him. He's not getting a workhorse role, and this is the type of injury that, at a minimum, is probably going to linger all season long, and at a maximum could cause him to miss games or even the season. So absolutely, your panic level should be very high right now on Antonio Gibson. Unfortunately, he hasn't done much the last 2 weeks, so it's going to be hard to move him, but if you can, you absolutely should. And for the rest of the season, Antonio Gibson is going to be a high panic player just because of this injury and his situation. All right, let's flip back to wide receiver. We'll just talk about Odell Beckham Jr., who, surprisingly played on Thursday night through that shoulder injury. Didn't really do much, but if you look at the last 4 games, he's only had more than 2 catches in one of those games. That's right, 3 of his last 4 games, only 2 catches. And now he's stuck with Case Keenum for however many weeks because Baker Mayfield's got this shoulder injury that he said he can't play until it's fully healed. That could be a week, that could be 2 weeks, could be a month. We don't know, but he's stuck with Case Keenum. And even when Baker Mayfield comes back, it's not like he and Odell have had this incredible connection that we can count on. Jarvis Landry back healthy, also going to eat into his targets a bit. And we know this is an offense that wants to run the ball. So high panic levels for Odell Beckham. If you can trade him on his name values, absolutely, you should do that. All right, guys, before we get to the last few panic players, I do want to remind you that we need your help. We need your support. We are trying to grow the greatest fantasy football community the world has ever seen. And in order to do that, we need you. For an extremely low price, for the less of a cup of coffee, you can join our Patreon. Check the link down below. You get amazing perks that go along with it. 10 times the value of what you pay for. No doubt about it. If you want to help support the channel and get amazing perks, check it out down below. All right, back to running back now. How about Mike Davis? Yeah, I said he was a must start. He got 4 carries. We just got to be really panicked about this Falcons offense right now, right? It's just really bad. I know Pitts had a great game. Really did okay. But for these running backs, for Patterson and Davis, we just have to be terrified about this Falcons offense because it's just not a fantasy-friendly offense like we've been used to in the past. So I really don't know what you can do with Mike Davis. I mean, I guess you just got to put him on your bench. and hope for the best. I don't want to say drop Mike Davis. That seems a little extreme, but he's reaching that point. But certainly panic level has to be extremely high on Mike Davis at this point. All right, one more wide receiver. That's Julio Jones. Good news is he played the entire game and he didn't come out and he didn't get hurt. Bad news is only 2 catches on 4 targets. This offense is A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry and everybody else fighting over for the scraps, right? We know that this offense wants to run the ball a ton. When they throw the ball, Ryan Tannehill is primarily looking at A.J. Brown. Julio Jones, kind of like in that Mike Davis range for me. I mean, I don't know if you can drop Julio Jones. Maybe. He's definitely borderline droppable in shallower leagues. But you can't really trade him right now because what are you going to get for Julio Jones at this point? Almost nothing. So you got to put him on your bench. If you're in like a 10-team league or an 8-team league, or maybe even a 12-team league, maybe he's droppable. But right now, panic level also very high for Julio Jones. And then finally, will the real Sam Darnold please stand up? That's right, we have seen the real Sam Darnold the last few weeks. You know, after he had 5 rushing touchdowns. That's right, Sam Darnold at one point this season led the entire NFL in rushing touchdowns. Had more rushing touchdowns than King Henry himself. People thought, oh, see, he was just being held back by Adam Gase. Well, guess what? He wasn't being held back by Adam Gase. He's a below average quarterback. And this is a guy I know a lot of people have been depending on as their QB1. They picked him up off waivers. They rode him for a few weeks. It's over. Stop playing Sam Darnold. If he can't get it done against the mighty New York Giants defense, it's just not happening. I mean, he got benched for P.J. Walker today. This is also a concern for the entire Panthers offense, but especially Sam Darnold. If you've got him, you can drop him and pick up almost any other QB. I said almost any other QB that's on your waivers. All right, guys, that does it for this week's Panic Players. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.